Welcome back. In this tutorial, we're going to take a look at using Hitbox Collisions to empower our melee attacks. And you might be asking, why are we using hitboxes? Why don't we use collisions that move along with the character and have more accurate attack profiles and collision? And there's a pretty good reason, actually. Let me show you something. So there is a setting in skeletal meshes. And it's way down at the bottom under skeletal mesh. And it's this one right here. Okay, the default is always tick pose. On our main character in the OWS, we actually had the default set to always tick pose and refresh bones. We're going to be changing that today. But basically what's happening here is it's telling us what is going to happen on the server. And obviously, we're making an MMO. We'd like as high of a player count per server as we can get. And to do that, we need to do less work on the server. And so what we'd like to not have to do is animate the bones on the server. And Epic actually in their GDC talk about how they optimized Fortnite to be able to get to 100 players per server, which they had to do a lot of stuff. But one of them was they had to turn off the animating of the bones on the server. And one way you can test this is that with this always tick bones, if we were to go over, let's go do it real quick. I didn't do this in the prep, but we're going to do it because I think it's important to show. So we're going to come over to our tick. Oh, we don't even have anything in here. Great. And we're just going to print a string. And in that string, we're going to grab the mesh. And we're going to get socket location. And we know we've got, let's see, we're swinging with our left hand. So let's do hand L. I'm going to print this out to the screen. Yeah, it's going to spam us, but we're going to get an idea. Now let me show you that this one has been set to always tick pose and refresh bones. See that? So what's going to happen when we play? So we're getting spammed, and you can see the numbers aren't changing a whole lot. You see that? It's just, we're playing the idle pose, and our arms swing back and forth a little bit. And when we do this attack, you can see that they're moving much more. Do you see that Z value? That Z value is moving. What's happening is that on the server and the client, you can see both of them are moving together. We might have to slow this down so we can see it easier. But what's happening here is the server and the client are both moving that location of the hand. And that is with the setting, always tick pose and refresh bones. I'm going to slow this tick down in class defaults. I think I can do this. Tick interval, maybe 0.5. See if that helps us see it a little bit better. So you can see let's stop here and see. So you can see here that it was hanging around negative 25289, 289, 289. See, it's mostly the same. 289, 289. Oh, look at that. 207, 221, back to 289, right? So there's the movement, and it moved on the server and on the client. However, if we go here and we come down to this mesh and we set it to the default, which is always tick pose. I did this test a few years ago when I was wondering why my collisions weren't working on the server, and it was because it wasn't moving, and I used the same result to figure it out, same test. And here we go. See it? The server stayed at 289 and 289, and the client moved to 290, 210, just like the other. See? So the server did not move with it. So basically what's happening is that using this default setting on this mesh, which is what we're going to leave this one on, by the way, this default setting of always tick pose is not going to update those bones on the server. It's going to save us a lot. Now what that means is this weapon tip thing here, bye-bye. Don't want that. And over here, let's see, on the mob, I guess this one didn't have it. I thought we had placed, I guess I didn't do it on this one. Anyway, in my test project I had put sphere collisions around the, it's just not a good method for collision for melee. If game really does need perfectly accurate collisions, and you're willing to say, hey, you know what, I'm okay with only 40 people per server instead of 80 people per server, and you're okay with paying that cost, then what you want to look at is you want to use C++ and do PhysX collisions, and they'll work really well. It's actually what we're doing in our game. But in this game, we're going for max player count, and we're going to use hitboxes. So let's go and add some hitboxes. But you know what? We don't want to add hitboxes to our mob, and we don't want to add hitboxes to our character because it's shared. And what do we do when it's shared? We put it in the base character. Here we go. We're going to add hitbox collision. And we're going to call it melee hitbox. And what we'll do is we'll have to customize this on different characters, but we'll set a standard looking type one. So let's go with 2 here and 2 here, and we'll pull it maybe forward a little bit, and maybe something like that to begin with. So that's going to be in our base, and then what we're going to do is we need to make a function that's going to get who's in it for us. So so we're going to create a function called get closest actor in melee hitbox, because we could potentially get multiple, and right now we don't really want to do a cleave. So function get closest actor in melee hitbox, and we want to return something. And we want to return a gameplay ability target data structure. So here we're going to have gameplay ability target data handle. There we go. It's better than returning a reference. Hit actor. There's only one in this case, and that's going to be our output. But we got to do some work here. Okay. So what we're going to do is going to need some local variables. We're going to need a closest actor index, because we're going to have an array that we need to loop through. And this method that we're going to use here, this loop, is a very popular loop in computer programming. And so we're basically going to loop through and try to find the smallest number. Closest distance. If we had some array sorting, we could potentially do this the easy way. We're going to go through and do it the hard way. So we're going to start out by setting the closest distance to some really big number. This is how these algorithms always work out. You start by setting it to something big, something bigger than could ever happen. And that number is bigger than the distance that someone could be while they're still inside the hitbox. Doesn't need to be that big, probably not, but a big number like that will hopefully remind us that it's special. And we're going to create an if. And what we want to do here is we want to grab this hitbox. We want to ask, get overlapping actors. And we're going to filter for what? Our base character. Okay. At this point, we're not going to distinguish between friend or foe. We can do that in the future. And we're going to check the length of this. Okay. This one here does not allow us to not include ourself. Therefore, ourself will always be included. Therefore, we have to think of these numbers in numbers that are one greater than what they should be. And so in this case, what we want to do is we want to ask the question, is there more than, and we normally would say 0, but we have to calculate for ourself inside this and say 1. And so what this is basically, the question this is asking is there anybody other than us inside it? If no, then we will return no hit actor. So that's if no. And then if yes, it's time to loop. We're going to do a for loop. And this is on the true branch. And what we want to do is we want to loop through and keep figuring out which one is smaller than the one before it. And so what we're going to do is we're going to do a branch because we have to ask, are we smaller than the last one we found? And so, actually, first thing we want to do is not count ourselves. So we're going to go say, hey, if this is us, skip us, not equal. So the first thing we do is for each one we're looping through, we say, hey, if it's us, ignore. So as false is just an ignore, don't go any further, take us to the next one. And from there, we want to say get actor location. This is the actor that is not us, that is in this array. And then we also want to get our actor location. And we've done this before, remember, to get distance, we subtract. We subtract vector minus vector, and then we get a length. Okay, and then from that length, we ask the question, is it less than, because we're trying to get a smaller, whatever was the last smallest one, right? And remember, we started with a really big number, so the first one's going to be a yes. Yes, it's smaller than that. So we're always going to go yes on the first one. We're going to do a branch off that. And again, we're going to say, okay, if it's false, just move on to the next one. This actually comes down here. And so this one means this is smaller than the last one we found. And if so, store the index of the one you found, and the index is sitting here. So then we'll remember where it's at, and we can access it later. But that's not good enough. We also then have to set the closest distance to the new one we found so that it will count as the new closest distance. And so we pull off this. That was the distance of this one. And what will happen here is that when we hit completed, closest actor index will always contain the closest of the actors in the array. And so once we do that, we can use this, and we can do a get off here. So we get the one that we just found was the best. And we will get target, nope, ability target data from actor, which we will plug in here. And that's on the completed once we're done looping through all of them. Okay, So now we have this method, and this is in our base character, so we can use it for either of the other ones, and this will now tell us of this melee hitbox, so we can use this in our abilities. So now let's go to Seraph, and we've got our hitbox here. Okay, we're going to make some adjustments to this later, but we'll start here for now. Actually, I want to go back to the base character, and I want to make sure that we have our collision settings right. So for collision, we do want overlap events. No, you can't step on top of it. And we're using overlap all dynamic. That should work. And okay, so what's going to happen here is that if we go back up to ability system, abilities, attack, weapon collision, this thing is going to be mad at us because weapon tip doesn't exist anymore, right? It's not on here. So we're going to dump that. But we now have this melee hitbox, right? And so what we can do is we can pull off this and say get closest actor in melee hitbox. It's going to return a hit actor, which is what we want to use. So we're going to dump, we don't need any of this collision stuff anymore. Don't need any of that. And we don't need this RPG wait for overlap. We're making this a lot simpler. We don't need this. We don't need any of that. And we don't need any of this. Making it nice and simple. Okay, so we do want to wait a little bit though, right? We don't want it like right as it starts winding up, it already counts as a hit. So we want to do a little bit of a delay. So we're going to do a wait delay task. Always use this one here on the ability, not that one there. And about a half a second seemed to be pretty good on the finish. And that's the point at which we want to say, okay, go figure out who it is that we hit. And then we can ask the question, okay, did we hit somebody? So target data has actor. And if it's true, then take that actor and apply this damaging effect. We're going to go create a new damaging effect. We're going to modify that one actually. But this this should work now, right? And we're going to later, we'll go do the same thing to Rampage. But now Sarah's going to swing. If it starts playing this animation, it swings. And then after half a second, it says, okay, tell me who I got, who I hit. Gets the closest one because it calls the get close actor. And then it applies this a gameplay effect that's going to have damage. And we can actually give that a test real quick here. Okay, so we're not applying anything here. Could be the damage effect. Let me go and I'm actually gonna go get rid of this printing because that's annoying. Okay, so I got that, and let's come here and check our collisions. So we may need to do a little bit of stuff here to fix this. So for the third person character with abilities, we want to change this capsule collision off of custom and change it back to pawn. We don't need to do anything special here. And on our mob, let's see what they're running. Mob should probably be running pawn as well, and it is. And that looks good. Generate overlap events, because that's what we're going off of is the capsule itself, not the mesh. So the mesh is probably going to be, yeah, character mesh. That is fine. Wait. Actually, our base character probably is what sets those. Yeah. our base character needs to get set to ragdoll. There we go. Now it should override those other ones. Yep, okay. Cool. Okay, so let's go into our attack with weapon collision. And let's, actually let's go into our base character here. And when we return somebody, let's print out. Print display name. Let's get display name. And we'll print a string. See what's happening here. Collisions are always a little bit fun. Oh, look at that. We're hitting him. So it didn't have anything to do with that. And if we're here, see, nothing. And if we're hitting the mob. Sometimes another thing I'll do is I'll turn on the collisions while I'm testing. So I'll actually come here on the base character with this melee hitbox, and I will say not hidden in game so I can see it. For testing it's pretty helpful. You can also use the console command show collision. It just depends. I don't want to see all collisions. So I'm doing that. Okay, so the problem is we're getting the right value back here. And we're saying, do they have one? Do we add this attack effect? So potentially we have a problem with here with this attack effect. Now I was going to go, and I didn't really like that effect anyway. So I'm going to go here, and I think I created a new queue. Yep. So let's go here, and we need to create a new queue that looks better. So we're going to go blueprint class, and we're going to go gameplay queue. We're going to use this hit impact, and we're going to say hit impact queue. And this is a real simple one. You just have audio and sound, and for the particle effect, I did hit impact. Chastise impact is good. We'll save that, but we're also going to need a gameplay queue tag here, and so I need to go create one of those, open up our tags table, and we're going to create one called, remember that gameplay queues all have to start with gameplay queue. It's a special name, gameplay queue, and we're going to do serif, and we're going to do dot melee hit impact. This hit impact for serif melee weapon. Save that and come back over here and we'll pick that. So glad you don't have to restart anymore to do that. You used to have to restart to pick up the new queues. That was a great fix in 4.19. Okay, so now we've got that hit impact queue, and we're actually going to come over. We'll still use this attack effect. So we're going to come over to our attack effect, and we're going to go down here to queue. We'll clear that, and melee impact. And this actually can allow you to you could run different impacts based on different damage amounts. So you can actually come in here and say, okay, if the damage is 1 to 10, play, a small impact. If it's, more than 10, play this other one. So you can do some fun stuff with that. I don't know what this goes up to. I know it doesn't go that high, but make sure it plays. Okay. So now let's see if we can get that playing on that target. Oh, Actually, I know what the issue is. I had this issue before. So this is something that is always an issue. Always, always, always. You gotta watch this. Server respects remote ability to cancel anytime you've got delays. So here's what's happening, is that when this is turned on, as soon as the client, which is ahead of the server by the amount equal to your round trip lag, hits end ability, it'll send a message back to the server to end the ability, and the server's ending the ability somewhere in here before it gets to the actual effect application. So watch that one. There are reasons that you would want to respect the remote ability to cancel, but in the vast majority of your abilities, this is going to be unchecked, instance per actor, local predicted. So watch that one. This one gets me all the time. I wish it started unchecked. Okay, and let's go see what happens now. There we go. And you see it's firing on both the server and the client, which is great. That's important. Huh. Apparently the death mechanic is not working on this one. Huh. Let's take a look at that. I think I know what it is. Oh, it's just not playing. Okay, it's just not doing the ragdoll. That's all. See, he actually did die and disappear. But it's fun when he does the ragdoll and falls to the ground and you can kick him around. So we'll have to fix that. Oh, that's not good. Uh-oh. No, I wanted in the whole thing. Not like that. There we go. Okay, so we fixed the collision here. Now one thing I think is, if you looked at how Sarah swings, see swinging, oh, that's not good. Look at that. Second activation, can't activate it. Let's test that one again. Oh, that's not good. Okay, we got an error. So let's come and take a look at this. So there must be a path that's not hitting end ability. Oh, yeah. There, when you don't hit someone, oops. Yeah, I gotta make sure all the paths lead to end ability eventually, because otherwise that will happen. What was happening is that as long as we kept hitting somebody, it kept hitting end ability and resetting and let us activate it again. But as soon as it hit this false because there wasn't one, it didn't hit anything and it stayed held open. It stays held open, and this retrigger instance ability is unchecked. You can't trigger it again. So that was interesting. Okay, let's try that again so I can go back to what I was trying to show. There we go. So you see she's swinging mostly on the left-hand side. Yeah, there's a little bit up higher. But I feel like maybe we should favor the left-hand side a little bit. So let's go here, and we're only overriding the one that's inherited. Let's move it over here. Now remember, for this sizing, it doesn't mean they have to be inside this. It just means part of their capsule has to touch it. So that means somebody standing over here with just their capsule touching it is still a hit, and somebody standing over here with still their capsule just barely touching it is still a hit. So don't think they have to be completely inside of that. And that's probably not too bad. Now, something to talk about here that is cool for hitbox type stuff is that what you'll want to do is that as you equip and unequip different weapons, you'll want to go and modify these scale and the relative location for each one of your weapons. So what you'll often do is in your weapon data table, you'll have a value for the location vector and the scale vector so that you can set those so that there can be different hitboxes depending on how you swing. Now, a lot of people might say, oh, well, that's not as accurate. Well, as long as the hitbox is good enough, it could potentially be as accurate, depending. So it just depends on what you do. So you can play around with watching the swing, watch how far it is, and you can adjust this, and you can get pretty good results. Most of the games out there today are still using these hitbox-style collisions, especially MMOs. It's a lot cheaper. Okay, so we did that, and now I can come here and play with the mob. So let's adjust his collision. We'll pull it out a little bit more. He's got a pretty good swing. So I think we're going to need to give him 3 here. And I think he's going to need to get 2 on the Y. He gets a little bit wider. He really gets those swings out there. So that's probably going to work pretty good for him. Okay, and we need to go to his Rampage ability. Rampage Attack. And we were just playing this here. So let's go back over to this. Yep. And let's copy. Because most of it's the same. Let's change that cast. That's 2. And we actually, you only want to cast as far, to keep it the most flexible, you want to cast as far as you have to. And so you only cast to the level. I'll actually go fix that over here because overcasting too far is not good. It will cause you trouble later. Cast failed, goes to there, and this gets to here. Yeah, so make sure you don't cast too far. That is something a lot of people do, and it ends up giving you trouble later when you try to add additional classes or different levels of inheritance or refactor. We got that, and we got this, and we got this. So we're basically doing the same thing on him. We'll probably play around with this weight delay. We could potentially, if you look at this, it's exactly the same between both of them. I would totally make this a shared ability. So if it was for me, I'd go in here, I'd make this a variable and make it public. I'd make this montage to play a variable and make it public. And this attack that you're going to apply to them, I'd throw that in a variable and make it public. And then what I would basically do is I would create 2 additional abilities that both inherit from that one, and in those abilities I wouldn't edit the blueprint. I would just come in and edit the defaults. This one looks like it's good. And come into these defaults and edit it so that, well, I guess this net execution policy is a little bit different. This is an ugly one. It actually takes a little bit of C++ to fix. It's the idea that you can't share attacks between mobs and AI, or AI and players because of this policy. So for now, I guess we got to keep them separate, but it's a bit ugly. What we do in our game is we use some C++ to override this if it's an AI so that the AI can activate the abilities that are set to local predicted, and it just basically modifies them to server initiated on the fly. But yeah, for this project, we're going to keep separate mob abilities and separate other. But the idea still stands. Turn these things into variables, expose them here, and reuse your abilities as much as you can. Okay. So, potentially, he should be hitting us too. Let's see if that's the case. So watch our health. Look at that. He's tearing us up. Man. Okay, gotta give him less damage. Oh, apparently we work. We work for Ragdoll. He just didn't. That respawn probably will not work, by the way. We'll have to take a look at that later. I think it has a location that it spawns you to, and there's a good chance it's outside the playable area, or probably, considering how far negative Z we are, it's probably way up in the air, 10,000, 10 kilometers up in the air. Okay, let's see if we can figure out why he doesn't ragdoll. It's probably due to a cast. So let's take a look here. The mesh is ragdoll. So if we go back to our base character, you remember we moved that death stuff. There it is. And we cast, okay, AI controller. Activate this ability, this apply death. Oh, that's not what I wanted. Usually opens Visual Studio. Let's go take a look at applied death. A lot of these ones were built to cast a third-person character with abilities, and so we'll have to refactor them. We'll search. Apply death. Oh, there's a death right here. There we go. We gotta fix all these, cast to our base character. This is the exact reason why you don't cast too far. And that's probably not even actually needed there. I guess it's making sure that we're only activating it on the right kind of actor, but that can be fixed other places. So to be honest, let's just dump this. There's no reason to. Commit the ability and apply the gameplay effect. Now let's see if that makes a difference. Oh, actually, we need to make him not hit his Zard or he's not going down. Let's temporarily disable him damaging us. We're cheating. Just so we can finish him off. Okay. So that wasn't the reason. He's obviously dead, and he does disappear after the 5 seconds. But he does not play the ragdoll. So let's go back. I probably missed something. To our base character, we're looking at the death, so it says, is it authority? Yep, we saw dead, remember? Disable movement. Cast a mob AI. If so, we call dead. Otherwise, we do target multicast death. That's what's probably going to do it. Yeah, set physics blend weight. Ah, we still want to continue. Yeah, we still want to continue with that. I think that's the difference between this and my test project. So it needs to set that physics weight so that he falls down. Haha. Yeah, he's got some odd issues. That is pretty funny. Yeah, something with his physics object. We can take a look at it later. Okay, so now we have, we've shown how to do melee hitboxes, and we've got our collisions, and if we put this, if we get this guy back and don't nerf him, he's now hitting us and we're hitting him. We could give him a different attack effect here, and we could go in and adjust. Maybe 0.5 wasn't the best spot to do that, and we could have a different attack effect, have a different hit impact for him hitting us. Some sounds would be nice. In the future, we are going to add some sounds. I'm going to go looking through the Epic projects for free sounds. It's too bad the Paragon sounds aren't in it, but I'm going to go go look through those. But we now have Hitbox Collisions. We can fight each other. Does he win or does I win? I don't know. Let's see. Maybe if we can hit him with an early one of these. Oh, that doesn't do him much damage at all. Actually, we could cheat and have him run. Oh. And we got him first. But that would be a tough one, actually. I think in a straight-up melee battle, I think for some reason he'd beat us. Actually, we're both doing the same damage, so probably just whoever got the first hit. Anyway, until next time.